Now, we have to also at the same time look at this with clear eyes and a clear head. And the fact of the matter is, barring a major medical event for Joe Biden, the race is effectively over. And Bernie Sanders is significantly behind. There really is no more path to him for the nomination. Now, again, that wouldn't stop me from going to vote for him because I know how good it feels, and I would recommend everybody else out there does the same thing. But let's talk about... Now, here's the difficult part, guys. This is what we're going to do now. We're going to talk about what the Bernie campaign did right, and we're going to talk about what the Bernie campaign did wrong, and just the race in general and how it unfolded. So let's start on a positive note. What did the Bernie campaign do right? Well, and a lot of people won't admit this on the left, but I think they're being silly if they don't admit this. Their strategy right up until Super Tuesday was basically flawless given the state of the race. So I want to give a hell of a lot of credit not only to Bernie, but also to Fahd Shakir, who is Bernie's campaign manager, because he was driven by the data and he was very shrewd and clever, and he got us that big lead up until Super Tuesday. So there were a few instances where I wanted, even prior to Super Tuesday, hey, Bernie, go harder at Biden, for example. And the campaign was like, nope, not going to do it. And it turns out, you ready for this? Early on, they were correct at that time. They were correct. Early on, it would not have made sense for Bernie to go hard at Biden. Why? The campaign had very solid data that when Bernie does go hard at Biden, Bernie goes down. So early on, that the strategy that they were running was perfect. Why do I say that? We were winning, and we were easily winning. But here's the problem. The plan was basically, hey, how do we get Bernie to have a solid 30% chunk of support in every single state? Okay, understand that? Very simple. We have a fractured field. We got a jillion candidates out there. So what do we need to win? Well, in a fractured field, Bernie's going to just need a plurality. This was their thinking. Okay, if he has the most votes, he's going to win. So they just need a plurality with over a dozen people running. Let's craft a strategy to get Bernie that solid 30% support in every state, and then he'll win. And as you saw in Iowa, in New Hampshire, and in Nevada, that strategy was working perfectly. I don't want to break anybody's heart here, but the race was ours. The race was ours. So that strategy the whole time of Bernie being Bernie going out there doing his standard stump speech, repping his lane, arguing for his position, doing the same damn thing he did the last time around, that was working perfectly. Now, here's the problem, and this is where we get into what went wrong. Bloody Monday happened. Bloody Monday absolutely, positively, 100%, without a doubt, changed the dynamics of this race. And what I mean by that is the establishment coalescing in retrospect was a mountain that was too tall for us to climb. Now, in the moment, even I was looking at what was happening. I was like, I don't know. This might not hurt Bernie because there's some data that shows that most of Mayor Pete's supporters, or the plurality of Mayor Pete's supporters, would go to Bernie. He's number one on their list, so maybe it'll help him. So there was a question mark. Hey, this might actually end up helping us. But that turned out to be wrong, and that polling data turned out to be outdated. And what happened was Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar dropped out, endorsed Biden. They brought in Beto O'Rourke to also endorse Biden. Now, you might say, hold on, man. Beto's not popular, so it's not going to help him. Beto O'Rourke is popular in one place in the country, Texas, where he lives and where he ran and where he almost won and beat Ted Cruz. So that Beto endorsement could have given Biden a 3%, 4% bump that got him over the edge in Texas, a state that looked like we were going to win. And Obama, of course, facilitated the phone call, the Bloody Monday and the endorsement and the big event that they did. So you didn't have Bernie versus Biden. You had Bernie versus Biden and Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar and Beto O'Rourke and Barack Obama, and the coalescing worked. The coalescing worked because all of those voters who were scattered all over the place with all those different candidates, they really did line up behind Biden. I'm sure many of them voted for Biden and they don't even necessarily like him. They're just like, I don't know, I guess him, because my guy dropped out and said him. All right. And on top of that, yes, Elizabeth Warren also effectively functioned as a spoiler. She siphoned just enough votes from Bernie on Super Tuesday where he ended up getting his clock cleaned. You know, many experts say if Elizabeth Warren had just dropped out, not drop out and endorse Bernie, just dropped out. If she did that on Super Tuesday, 3 or 4 more states would have went to Bernie. So that could have totally changed the nature of this race. And even given the Super Tuesday, or I should say the Bloody Monday situation, which led to the Super Tuesday bloodbath, even in the scenario where Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar did the exact same thing with Biden, and if Warren dropped out, Bernie would still be in a much stronger position. So now, but here's the thing, guys. I don't want to make too many excuses because it's easy to say we would have won it if the dynamics didn't change. But the fact of the matter is the dynamics changed. And that's why immediately after Super Tuesday, you saw me come out here and lay out a strategy that I needed the Bernie campaign to follow, because my perception of it is, and this is not a shot at Bernie, this is not a shot at Foz, but my perception of it is they didn't understand the colossal shift in the race and the momentum change, and they just thought like, okay, now we're down to one-on-one, and that's a good thing, and we think we could beat Biden in a one-on-one race. But in my estimation, looking at how he ran post-Super Tuesday, they didn't adjust their strategy at all. Bernie went right back to being the same old Bernie that he was all along, which got him to win Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada, but he was only running a strategy that was going to get him 30% chunks in each state. So you need to expand the coalition, and I didn't see a strategy that was built on expanding the coalition. I saw Bernie being Bernie and, frankly, being incapable of adjusting to the new reality. So what do I mean? Because it's easy for somebody who loves Bernie, like I do, to come across this video and say, yeah, okay, what do you know, Kyle? You're an armchair pontificator. I will say, listen, yes, I am Monday morning quarterbacking, and, I say this with nothing but love and respect and devotion to Bernie and his team, but in my opinion, here's the strategy that could have definitely helped them and potentially kept us in the ballgame. First and foremost, Bernie needed to be better at the tit-for-tat establishment game. So what I mean by that is when you had Bloody Monday and all these centrists dropped out and endorsed, or I shouldn't even say centrists because I don't think they're centrists, neoliberals, they all dropped out and endorsed Biden. If I was on the Bernie campaign, I would have done everything I can to just blunt that media momentum that Biden was getting, where they're, oh my God, isn't this wonderful? Oh my God, isn't this great? Oh my God, Biden's now the strongest candidate. Oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, Bernie's day is done. You needed to do your best to try to get Elizabeth Warren to drop out and endorse you. Offer her anything. I don't care. I'd go as far as offering her VP, and we'll deal with the consequences of that later. Andrew Yang, try to get him to endorse you. Try to get Tom Steyer. Try to get Tulsi. Do anything you can. Also, try to get a couple normie Democratic endorsements, because post-Nevada, there's an argument you're the clear front runner. So he could have shifted rhetoric to be like, I'm the man in this bitch. So here's my olive branch to anybody who wants to be part of our movement. And it would have helped assuage the fears of many of the normie voters who rejected Bernie if there was a little bit of a more tit-for-tat, playing the establishment game, countering endorsements with endorsements. Now, that's the smallest piece of what he could have done, but I do think that would have helped blunt the media momentum, which so helped Biden leading into Super Tuesday and Super Tuesday 2. The second thing is, okay, now is when you hammer Biden. Now is when you hammer him. I think the campaign was right to not do it early on and to keep their powder dry. Why do I say that? Because he was winning. He was winning, so by definition, his strategy was good. That's the whole point. If you can win, your strategy was successful. That's the way it works. So when he was winning Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and he wasn't going after Biden aggressively, okay, great. Keep doing that because it's working. The only reason you change to attack him is because now the dynamics have shifted in the race, and it's not a fractured field. You're not trying to get your 30%. Now you're mano a mano. You got to take the guy down. You have no choice now. You have no choice. And I didn't see him do anything that wasn't already part of his playbook previously when they were going relatively soft on him. Now you have to make the distinction, and I don't think the distinction's enough because it wasn't to just talk about the policy. You needed to say, no, you don't get it. This guy is corrupt. But I would go as far as to bring up specific examples. I'd give the dollar amount. I'd say Joe Biden took X amount of money from the pharmaceutical industry. Joe Biden took X amount of money from the for-profit health insurance companies. It's no wonder he's against Medicare for all. He's bought by the industry. Instead, what Bernie does is he's so nice that he acts like, oh, it's just a difference of opinion. But that's not just a difference of opinion. That's also, he's corrupt and he has the position he has because he's paid to have the position he has. So that's an important point, is after the race shifted, you don't have an option. I know you like Joe. I know you're a nice guy, but it would be disrespectful to the working people who donate to you to not go after him aggressively, to not say, yes, in fact, he is corrupt. He is a swamp thing, and he led to Donald Trump. The next thing I would have done is, and they did a good job of this early on, but then they tapered off. Bernie needed to hammer electability. Now, early on, I remember I had a conversation with somebody in the campaign, and I actually was not early on a fan of the just make the electability argument point. Because I thought that was too standard. There's no there. It's just like, blah. It's like, whatever. But no, the campaign said, we're going to hammer electability. And I was wrong, and the campaign was right. This was early on. Because Bernie did hammer electability. He did it in a bunch of the debates, and then he skyrocketed on the issue of electability. And it got to the point where Bernie was leading over Biden on who can beat Trump. Well, after Super Tuesday, the polls immediately flipped and reverted. And you had Bernie at like 30%, and you had Biden at like 70% in electability. So I think that at that point, he had no choice but to go all in on I'm the electable candidate argument. But, and here's the problem, he wasn't making the argument in new ways. And what I would have advised the campaign to do is you have to connect the dots for people. You can't leave anything up to their imagination. And so for me, if I'm Bernie, I say Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton all over again. He's Hillary Clinton 2.0. We just ran this experiment in 2016, and the establishment safe option lost to Donald Trump. Don't make that same mistake again. Because in reality, I'm the safe option. I'm the one who's more electable against Trump. Look at my numbers with young people. Look at my numbers with independents. There's no way you're going to win a general election with this guy who cannot get the young to turn out in favor of him. He is Hillary Clinton. I am FDR. FDR got elected 4 times. 4 times. You say, you want to say he's not Hillary Clinton? Fine, then he's John Kerry. John Kerry, exact same situation. Safe option in 2004, lost to George W. Bush. After 4 years of George W. Bush, I would have kept repeating over and over, Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton just lost. Hillary Clinton just lost. Hillary Clinton just lost. This just happened in 2016. You have to say it over and over and over and over and over to the point where, in the same way that Trump hammered home crooked Hillary, and everybody was like, yeah, that's who she is, crooked Hillary. It's got to stick where people go, Joe Biden, oh, right, like Hillary Clinton. It's got to stick like that. So I would have hammered electability, which they did early on. I think they didn't do as good of a job of it post Bloody Monday and Super Tuesday. I would have not only made the electability argument, but you have to get clever with it. You have to get crafty with it. And I would have hammered home, he's Hillary Clinton, I'm FDR. He's Hillary Clinton, I'm FDR. And then finally, and here's, I think, probably the most important point, and the thing that he did the least. I wanted Bernie, after Super Tuesday, to proudly embrace the label moderate and centrist. Now you're saying, well, hold on, Kyle, and I've seen this, people reply to me on Twitter saying this every now and then. They're like, hey man, but he's not that. Like, why would he say that? He's not that. Like, to say that he's not a leftist is crazy. And my response to them is, I don't actually respond to them, and I try to avoid Twitter mentions altogether. Like, I rarely see responses, but every now and then I do. Some of them came after me on this. If you look at the opinion polls, if you look at what the American people believe on the issues, Bernie Sanders represents their opinion the overwhelming majority of the time. Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, ending the wars, legalizing marijuana, raising taxes on Wall Street, all these beliefs, all these policies are super popular. So I wanted Bernie Sanders to make the case, well, hold on now. Not only am I the electable one, Joe's Hillary Clinton, I'm like FDR. Hillary Clinton just lost. You want to run that experiment again? But also, I'm the moderate one. I'm the centrist, because I'm right smack dab in the center of mainstream American opinion. Now, every now and then, Bernie would do this line that's part of his stump speech. I'm not the radical. These ideas aren't radical. He says that. That's how he phrases it. These ideas aren't radical. Okay, good line, but what's the problem with it? The problem with it is you're saying what you're not. You're not saying what you are. You have to say what you are. I'm a centrist. I'm a moderate. That's what I am. Joe Biden, he's an extremist. I would have called him an extremist. Why? The Iraq War is pretty extreme. Hundreds of thousands of innocent people dead, cost trillions of dollars. We ordered torture to cover it up. The Iraq War is pretty extreme. Outsourcing deals, that's pretty extreme. He supported permanent normal trade relations with China, lost millions of jobs. He supported NAFTA. Pretty extreme. If you're a blue-collar worker in the middle of the country and you lost your job, that's pretty extreme if you ask me. Patriot Act. He supports unconstitutional spying on all Americans. That seems pretty extreme to me. That seems out there. That seems pretty extreme. So what Bernie needed to do was say, I'm the moderate, I'm the centrist, he's the extremist. Proudly embrace that label. Now, why? Because normally I say labels don't matter. Generally speaking, they don't matter because people don't know what they mean. But people perceive themselves, regardless of where they stand on the issues. Almost everybody perceives themselves as a moderate. You might not because you're, up to your eyeballs in politics, you're a political junkie. Not everybody is. People perceive themselves as a moderate. They think like, what do you mean? My ideas are the common sense ideas. Okay, so play into that. And here's the trick that Bernie needed to do. He needed to thread a needle. Thread a needle. In this election, the turnout for older voters was through the roof. You actually had an increase in turnout for younger voters as well, but that increase was drowned out by the even bigger turnout among older voters. So, Bernie needed to thread the needle and find a way to not lose any of the young support that he was getting in overwhelming numbers. People under 44 years old. It was like over 70% have been supporting Bernie. So you have to find an argument, find a way to not depress turnout among the youth, but also increase turnout among the old for you, or chip away at the giant number of older voters that are all going to Biden. And what I saw is post Super Tuesday, there was no adjusting in the strategy. There was like zero attempt to try to get the older demographic. It was just like a doubling down on an attempt to get the younger demographic, but at no point did the younger numbers eclipse the older numbers. So you're doubling down on the strategy that gets you your solid 30% in each state, but when it's one-on-one, you need 51%. So how do you make sure you keep that 30%, you keep that young block coming out for you and not being depressed, not decreasing, but also you have to chip away at Biden's giant As big as Bernie was leading with young people, Biden's leading just as much with old people. So how do you chip away at those voters? Answer, very simple. Again, most of those voters are saying, I'm voting solely on electability. I just want somebody who could beat Trump. So you had to win the argument that, no, I beat Trump. He doesn't. That's why you say, he's like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton just lost. He's Hillary Clinton. He's Hillary Clinton. You want to run this experiment again? You're going to lose to Trump. You got to vote for me. And what did Bernie do? In all the interviews after Super Tuesday, he was asked by reporters. Do you think Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump? You know what his response was? I wish I was kidding, guys. He said yes. I knew from the second I saw that clip, we were in deep trouble and we were probably going to lose. Because what that clip showed me, and he said it multiple times, what that clip showed me is, oh, you don't get it. You don't get what you have to say to win. You don't get the colossal shift in the momentum of this race and that you're not in Kansas anymore, dog. This is a whole new ball game. And the new ball game requires new rules and a new strategy. Not you doing the same, Bernie Sanders thing that you did before you got slaughtered. You just got slaughtered on Super Tuesday. Adjust. So again, I just want to run through it for everybody really quickly. What went wrong was Bernie's strategy didn't adjust post Super Tuesday. The establishment coalescing in retrospect really was a mountain that was too tall for us to climb. Partially, yes, you blame Bernie for not adjusting his strategy, but yeah, you can blame the establishment for their dirty tricks and their scheming behind closed doors and their backroom deals and Obama making the phone call and the media for pushing the narrative nonstop. The media is way more powerful than even I thought because their narrative worked. So that's thing number one. The establishment coalescing was just too much of a hill for us to climb. Bernie's campaign needed to play the establishment game better of tit for tat with endorsements and almost embracing that front runner role. The next thing is, this is the third thing I believe, he needed to hammer Biden on corruption and take the gloves off. Say that, Biden is the rot that led to Trump being elected. You have to be aggressive post-Super Tuesday. Pre-Super Tuesday, they were right to not be aggressive. Post-Super Tuesday, that's when you take the gloves off. And the fourth and fifth things are the most important things. The fourth one was, again, hammer electability. Compare Biden to Hillary. Compare yourself to FDR. Hammer that home really strongly so people really start thinking, no, maybe Biden isn't the most electable. And then the fifth thing is proudly embrace the moderate and centrist label because you needed to chip away at that older demographic, and the only way that they would vote for you is if you convince them that you're a safe option, that you're not extreme, that you're not like a pie-in-the-sky guy. And the way you do that is they agree with you on the policy, Bernie, so you could keep talking about the policies, but call it moderate and call it centrist. And then actually, I didn't mention this. It's not one of the most important parts, but what I would have done if I was in Bernie's campaign, you farm out to other people who are affiliated with the campaign to question Joe Biden's cognitive situation. You don't have anybody in the campaign do it, because then, oh my God, how dare you? There would be a whole outcry from the media. But people who are sympathetic to the campaign, who are around the campaign, who will deliver a message in a nuanced way, you don't have to say, oh, he's got severe cognitive decline, like I can say on this show, but you have people raise questions, like Cory Booker did. Remember Cory Booker in one of the debates afterwards? He's like, sometimes you look at Biden and you just wonder, is he all there? I don't know, man. You guys tell me. So I would have had some people related to the campaign do it because that, I don't think a lot of people actually even really know that he's in a terrible situation cognitively. And if you raise that as an issue, it becomes an issue. So that's the other thing I would have done. But listen, at the end of the day, I know this is a long segment, but I think it's super important. At the end of the day, I don't want anybody to be too sad, to be too upset, because we were right there. We were right there, guys. And I mean this in all sincerity. If Bloody Monday didn't happen, we won! We won! Bernie would have gotten a plurality, and we would have won. Biden would have still been off in Nowheresville. Biden needed everything to come together in the perfect storm for him to win. He needed all the king's horses and all the king's men to put him together again. He needed Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar to drop out and endorse him, Obama to make the phone call, get Beto on board too to try to win Texas. He needed Elizabeth Warren to stay in to siphon some votes from Bernie. He needed everything to come together perfectly in order to win. So it required all these tricks and these backroom deals. In other words, if the race was run in a fair way with no coordination between all the candidates, imagine we had some sort of rule. Like, yeah, if you're run for president, you can't coordinate with other candidates, nothing like that. Okay, well, if that was the situation, Bernie won. He would have gotten a plurality and we would have won. So I don't want you to be too upset and too down on yourself because we're right there. We're right there.